Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to help me give a very warm welcome to our next speaker, not only because he's a really impressive, innovative leader, but also because he's been awarded European CIO of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, Emiliano Sorrenti from Aeroporti di Roma.
Thank you, Thomas.
You're welcome.
Buongiorno, good morning to everyone. Whatever your business is, imagine yourself as a technology executive in a global and very competitive business, where key decision makers, key players of this industry are deciding whether your company is part or not of their future plans. And the future of your company depends also on this decision. These players are always searching for the next level of operational efficiency and for superior quality for the services they want to offer to their passengers. Your company has clearly strong expectations on how the technology team can help in achieving these targets. Imagine also that in this industry, there are official surveys who are describing the service levels offered by each of the players in this industry. And imagine also that in these surveys, the positioning of your company is the one highlighted in the yellow line, which means that the quality you're offering to your customers or to their customers, depending on the point of view, has always been in the last 7 years, either the last one or the one before the last one. Can you feel the pressure? I did it, believe me, I did it a lot. Now, obviously I'm talking about the airport industry, and these are the official surveys for the European hubs, the big airports in Europe with more than 40 million passengers. The yellow line is the one which is representing the results of Fiumicino Airport, our main hub. And these are the official surveys as defined by Airport Council International, which is the worldwide organization of airports. There is also another very important player in commercial surveys for airports and airlines. You may have heard about it. It is Skytrax. We will talk about it slightly later. So it was very clear to my company that we had to do something. But now, first of all, let's define what is quality in an airport. It is very simple. It is made by the comprehensive set of services that you experience every time you go into an airport. And many of these you have tried when coming to Vegas, for sure. So how easy is to go through the security? How fast was the check-in? Or where is your luggage? You can understand how stressful is the experience when your luggage is not delivered as expected. Or also your impression about the security or the cleanliness of toilets, which is also very important. Or how easy is to get to the city, for example. But this is only the part which is visible to passengers. There is another component which is maybe even more important, and it is the hidden part of the game, which is the comprehensive set of logistics, operations, and infrastructure management, which is behind the scenes. And this is a fundamental pillar to have the rest of the services working well. Now, let's talk a little bit about Fiumicino Airport to understand the size of this business. So, we serve 200 destinations all over the world. And these destinations are served by 100 airlines, which are competing with each other in a common and shared infrastructure. A peculiar situation. 25% of our passengers are connecting, a very complex type of passengers to be served. And we serve every year more than 41 million passengers. Let's see what happens in a typical August day in Fiumicino Airport. We are using to do our services 100 boarding gates, 125 aircraft stands, and we have 1,000 movements a day, which is 90 movements, where a movement is either a landing or a departure of an aircraft, 90 movements per hour, or if you prefer, a movement every 30 or 40 seconds. There's not much time for mistakes. How many people are inside the airport? There are 40,000 people working inside the airport, from cleaning to security to police to retail to whatever you can imagine, doctors and whatever. And there are 150,000 passengers, which is the same number of people, 190,000 people, living in Salt Lake City, with one small difference. Salt Lake City is 300 times bigger than the surface of terminals of Fiumicino Airport, which means that you need to take all the people living in that area and to have all of them going through the blue dot, which I hope is visible, in something like 13 or 14 hours. Not an easy exercise. Now, we use this map to try and explain, in a nutshell, what is our business about? So on the horizontal line, you have the passenger experience. People thinking of a trip, coming to the airport, connecting or arriving or departing from Fiumicino. And on the upper part, you have all the actors of this very complex city. We have an hospital, a church if you need, we have a train station, but also we have the people from the police, the border control, the retail, the security, and all the rest. And the peculiarity of this business is that the airport operator is accountable for the end-to-end journey, but having a very limited control on all the actors playing in this game, which makes the business complex, but also, I have to say, very interesting. Now, given the situation where we were starting from, we decided to launch a journey that we call Total Concentration for Quality of Service. And what we have done, you can't fly on thin air, someone said. So we started from the infrastructure. For example, we have built a brand new departure terminal for international flights. In this terminal, you have the best stores about fashion and luxury goods. You have Gucci, Armani, Prada, Bulgari, and all the rest. Very important, but not enough in order to ensure a very good experience for our passengers. We have involved all those 40,000 people working in the airport in order to achieve a kind of acceleration factor towards our targets about the quality. Not only this, obviously there was a heavy work around the processor engineering. This is a very simple example of what happens when an aircraft stops in its stand. You need to connect it to the loading bridge, to electricity, air conditioning, fueling, luggage is on and off from the aircraft, maintenance. There are so many people that typically you don't see, but that happens when the aircraft it is in the stand. And we have fully redesigned these processes. Now, let's talk a little bit about the technology, because we are here for this purpose. So I was new to the business after many, many years in telecommunication. And my boss, the CEO, gave me 2 weeks. He called it the honeymoon, to understand the business and to define a digital strategy. After 2 days, I came out with something like this: a digital transformation, IoT, cloud, and all the rest. You like it? It didn't work well. And the reason why it didn't work well is because if for a second you highlight in red all the jargon in this picture, and you try and imagine that people not working in IT typically do not consider as priority all those terms, what remains in their mind is a meaningless sentence and a very complicated architecture. So I restarted from scratch. Our strategy is not having a digital strategy, which is not a joke, it's serious. So my goal, my purpose was to have the digital strategy inside the business strategy, and this worked extremely well. So a business strategy having digital technologies as key enablers and accelerators. But let's be specific. Each and every service should have been designed according to the following rules. First of all, foundation, business continuity and resilience, starting from the design of the service, the networking, the data centers, and all the technologies related to it, in order to make sure that we are monitoring all the technological components of the service, application performance monitoring, networking, and so on and so forth. But then that's not enough, because often you remember, CPU is up and running 99%, but the service doesn't work. So we need to connect this KPI to the KPI coming from the business processes. So we talk about connected operation. Each service needs to be connected to very specific business performance indicators. Real-time control. Also, this is not enough, because in an airport, when there is a problem, it's already to try and resolve it. So not only real-time monitoring, but also short-term forecast, where short-term can be seconds, minutes, hours, days, or weeks, depend on the service that you are monitoring. All of this data have to be archived and processed properly, because this is an extremely important value for the business. So the business is constantly analyzing the information coming from these sensors, let's call it this way, in order to develop new services or to learn how to improve the existing services. And on the other side, this is the other side of the coin, the same information are made available to the operational departments to analyze each and every big or small mistake that we do in order to have that mistake not happening again. And if there are no mistakes, it means that we are too much relaxed, so it's time to raise the bar. Sometimes this is maybe too complex, so what we decided to do is to have a pilot-first approach. Each and every service has to be tested first on a small scale. If it works well, we scale up as fast as possible. If it doesn't work, we simply cancel the service. And this happened in 20 or 30% of the technologies that we tested. Now, let's be specific. I have two examples. One is about Landside airport operations. This is fully developed on TIBCO technology. Actually, this is a control panel about whatever is happening before the security gates. And when we say before, I include also what is happening in the streets which are connecting the city to the airport, which is another very important factor. These sensors are coming from different sources: the airport, airlines, traffic control, or the companies managing the highway from the city to the airport. In this case, in the red rectangle, we have a warning. So let's see what's going on. This warning is telling us, if you see on the left on the red rectangle, that there are 82 people who have been waiting on average 17 minutes and 57 seconds to complete their check-in operations. This is a specific KPI of that area, which is not fulfilling the target of the airport. So what we have to do is to understand what's going on. We deep dive a little bit, and using the triangulation of Wi-Fi probes coming from our Wi-Fi network, we can clearly see that there is an overcrowding situation. There is congestion in front of that check-in. But still, this is not enough to understand what's going on. With another click, we can see what the issue is. There is a ground handling company who is opening only 3 out of the 13 check-in desks which have been assigned for that operation. And this is not aligned to our expectations. So in this case, the airport is calling the handler. We try to understand what's the issue, and we push the handler in order to have those check-in desks immediately open. Issue solved? No, because when you solve congestion in check-in, what happens? That congestion goes to security. Now, at the moment, situation at security is very, very, very good, because we have only 14 people queuing for 1 minute and 9 seconds on average, and there are only 2 cabins open, because the volumes are low. So what we have to do here is immediately call the security agents and tell them to open up as much as possible the gates, because people will come there. And in few minutes, in 10 or 15 minutes, this is what could happen in those gates. Please, the video. Okay, this is what happens when people move from check-in to security. In this case, we have 107 people who are served only because all of the gates are open in 2 minutes on average by our security services. In this case, the airport is fulfilling the promise of serving 90% of our passengers at security in no more than 4 minutes. So the promise with the passengers has been kept thanks to this end-to-end monitoring. Let's look at another example. This is about Airside airport operations. In this case, the goal of the airport is to resolve all the delays coming from incoming flights. But unfortunately, in this situation, is happening exactly the opposite. And this is a real case. Bottom left red rectangle, 79% of flights are arriving on time, but only 44 are departing on time, which means that the airport is introducing delays. This is something to be solved immediately. Looking at the details, we have the short-term forecast I was talking about. In the next 3 hours, the delays will be there, with an average delay of 25 to 30 minutes, bottom left red rectangle, and with the trend of delays that you can see in the other red rectangle. Still, we don't have the answer. Deep diving on the root causes for the delays, we see that there is a specific handler, the name was hidden for obvious reason in this case, who has introduced in the last 15 minutes 5 delays of an average of 1 hour and 3 minutes. So we immediately contacted the handler, telling, guys, what's going on? And this handler was facing a strike with an impact higher than expected. This happens, unfortunately. Now, the airport clearly can't solve itself a strike, but we can do much in order to reduce the impact. So what we did in this case, going back to our control panel, we have assigned to that handler a specific area very close to the airport, with all his flights very adjacent one to the other, in order that that handler, with a reduced staff, was able to increase an extremely higher level of efficiency on one side. On the other side, having isolated the issue, there was no impact anymore on flights managed by different handlers. So we can say that in this case, we have solved much faster than the forecast the issue that the system was presenting to us. Results of this approach came much, 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 much faster than expected. The first surprise came from a press release by CNN, totally unexpected. Fiumicino is the second airport on Earth with the happiest passengers. And this comes from those machines that you see in each and every airport. There is a worldwide leader company in this business who is delivering this solution all around the airport, including Fiumicino. And to be the second airport with happiest passengers was a very important signal. For sure, not the formal survey from Skytrax of ACI, but it was a clear signal that we were going on the right direction. More important than this, immediately afterwards, we received the best award that you can imagine. So Fiumicino is the airport with the world's most improved results in quality, which means that we're not the best in the world, but we are the one in the last 12 months with the highest acceleration in quality. So this is the confirmation that that was the direction. Let's recap my lesson learned. One, if you want to achieve such an acceleration, whatever you are doing, you need to stop, take time to think differently, and look outside of your industry, because innovation, in many situations, comes from different industries. Talk business language. I think I already explained this one. When it's too big, even if it's difficult, we must find a way to break it down in little pieces in order to achieve acceleration and to require small investments, at least in the start of the journey. Value comes from integration and ecosystem. The business case for having better security comes from increasing sales in revenue, because if you are not queuing, you are spending money. Last but not least, in an area where most of the innovations are coming from 2 or 3 guys sitting in a garage, we can't say anymore, we can't spend our time anymore telling the business why IT is so complicated and then technology requires time and you don't understand. So my view is that we should start behaving differently, telling the business and the other commercial colleagues that IT is finally now easy, because there is a lot of technology, sensors, integration tools, which were not available as they are today. Now I'd like to close this story as I opened it with this chart, though this time providing an updated version with the results of all this hard work. So it's unbelievable, but in 2017, Fiumicino has always been the best airport in Europe in terms of the quality services provided by Airport Council International, which brought us to an even more important result, which was obtained just 3 months ago, together with many important business results. And the Airport Council International has assigned to Fiumicino Airport this award. So Fiumicino is now the best airport in Europe with over 40 million passengers a year. Now it's time to say... Thank you. It's time to say goodbye, obviously, but not without inviting you to come to Fiumicino Airport to test and challenge our services, and obviously to visit my beloved city. See you in Rome. Thank you very much. Thank you.